All right, everybody, this is a great day for us today in trades. We're a podcast for those of you joining us, dedicated to all of us out in the field in the trades, whether it's glass, plumbing, electrical, handymen, landscapers. We're the people that serve homes, serve businesses, and create a community of taking care of people and taking care of each other. Today, we're really lucky. We have a guest on our show named Tessla Rennie. Tesla's out of Washington. Tesla, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hello. I'm 29 years old. I'm originally from Anchorage, Alaska. I grew up in Montana a little bit in Red Lodge, with my mom's side as well. But I've been in the construction industry for about, I want to say 8 years now. Majority of that was ironwork, and I just recently switched over to plumbing. So it's treated me very well throughout these whole years. So other than that, I went to college for 3 years playing basketball and trying to find my way. When I decided to not continue to do that, someone had reached out. That's when I got my chance to get in the trades. So here I am living in Washington for about the last 10 years. So
awesome. Where in Washington are you located?
Right in SeaTac now, right by the airport.
Good for you. All right, so you're 29. You went to school, played basketball. What position did you play?
Oh, I was forward.
Awesome. Playing basketball, kind of doing what so many of us do as we're trying to find our way in life. And I guess, how did you find the trades, or did the trades find you? How did you end up going into ironwork? I mean, what a jump from basketball. Aren't you supposed to do business management or something, standard? How did you end up doing ironwork, and what was that like?
Well, I was actually trying to get into the sports medicine or physical therapy, anything to do with athletic, medicine or whatever, heal people or just stay in that physical environment. I always like to be active and stay in shape. And growing up, my dad, he was always doing his own handyman work. He was also a plumber at one point. So I was exposed to it as a young kid. And then growing up on a ranch as well, just exposed to labor.
Fascinating. And how was that? So as a kid, your dad's helping you, kind of bringing you along. Were you always fascinated by it, or was it just kind of obligatory, I guess? As you look back on those years, how did that play into it?
I loved it. I wanted to help him build on the cars and, fix whatever he had going on. I'm kind of a daddy's girl, so I liked going with him to just do all the things.
Yeah, that's important. A lot of us have kids. I have 2 little daughters, and sometimes we forget to involve our kids in what we do, as we're out there fixing homes. I think sometimes we think, well, I hope they're going to be a doctor or something. Maybe we write it off. But I think it's really important to involve your kids at a young age. And so I wanted to highlight that. I think that's a powerful example. That's really cool.
Yeah, he always wanted to work for himself. He's like, don't work for anybody else. Try and get your own business and just do your own thing. He just always thought that was better. And it might be a little bit more stressful, but in the long run, I think it benefits you from taking your free time and being able to do your own schedule. If you're responsible enough to do that, you can become really successful, to be honest.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you grew up, you're looking into sports medicine. It sounds like you obviously like to help people. You wanted to take care of people. You wanted to stay in the physical space. And then again, how did ironwork just show up on your radar?
Yeah, it's funny because getting into the trades and being a woman in the trades, I found I don't know if you want to call it calling, as far as I'm always recruiting people, especially women, when I'm like out and about. I'm like, it's really easy conversation to bring up, like, hey, what do you do for a living? Like, do you like it? I got something for you. And I just kind of sell them on it, and I give them my information, and I can't tell you how many times they're like, oh my God, that's awesome. I can't wait to look into it. So that was cool. Ironwork kind of showed up on my lap is just, I honestly was cooking at the old spaghetti factory in Linwood, Washington, and wanted to become a chef. And like my friend of a friend, her dad and her uncle were ironworkers in Local 86, and she had pretty much laid it out to me and sold me the dream too. So I kind of bid on it, and it's a physical job. It's very dangerous, but I like a challenge, and I signed up for it and got in within my first try.
Wow. So for those of us that don't know, what does that entail? When I hear ironwork, I imagine, you're framing buildings, you're working on some big commercial projects. You've got not only a safety of yourself, but safety of doing it right because it's the structure of a building. I mean, what was that like your first kind of week on the job?
Well, there's a lot of different aspects of ironwork. The first job I was on, it was a miscellaneous, is what we call it. So you're doing like staircases and handrails and anything like smaller gigs,
Hmm.
not so intense with all the iron and the big heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But as I got into my career a little bit more, I got to the rebar. I got to experience the rebar side of it. That's like going to the gym for 8 hours, 10 hours a day, trying to get as much rebar down and laid down as hard as you can. I mean, it's fun. It's
I can't
fun, but
imagine.
it's tiring.
Wow. So then does that involve welding and everything for those listening that are kind of sniffing around the trades as a career? Like what different tools, aspects, kind of lessons did you learn in that first part of this new career? Because you went from being a chef, you obviously you're a team player, being a basketball player. Kind of what do you remember challenging you during that first kind of, oh my gosh, I'm an iron worker?
Uh, when I was in orientation after I got over what they call a hell day, or what do you call that? Like competition day or like qualification day, where you go
Sure.
to try out pretty much. You do like you got to learn some knots. You got to tie some rebar, see how fast you can go. Cut a piece of steel plate with a torch. Um, Climb a 15-20 foot little structure they had there at the hall, and be able to walk it just to make sure that you're comfortable. Really, the first week of orientation, they're showing you all the dangerous things that could happen. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little scared. I was like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? But honestly, it fueled my fire a little bit more at the same time. It was like, am I crazy? Like a little bit, probably.
How many other women were in the hell day?
One other girl.
Okay. That's also got to be intimidating too. You probably got other, people like, what are you doing here? And how did that feel? Because you're learning something new. It's already scary. I don't care who you are, right? And then you've got, now you're also the kind of the minority in the group. Like, how did that settle in, and what did you learn from all that?
It was definitely like nerve-wracking, but I don't know. I find those moments to be empowering as well, and just kind of like, okay, I can make history right now. I could make people impressed, and I like stepping out and showing off a little bit. Being in sports and all that
Yep.
stuff. Like you just love the crowd and the attention. But it also humbles you at the same time.
Sure.
You do see a lot of different dudes, guys, and people, and you're just like, man, you guys, everybody has their different story, and
Mm-hmm.
my first time really working around older gentlemen or older people,
Mm-hmm.
being what, young 23 when I got in,
Sure. Sure.
or 22, I don't know, I was young.
Wow. Wow. Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit more as the episode goes on. But so after ironwork, you're a plumber now, right? You had moved your way from ironwork over to plumbing, right?
Yes.
And what was that jump like, and what caused you to make that move?
So kind of like back with the ironwork question, there's different like aspects, like I said, and after my time with rebar, I got a chance to get with big boys, with the biggest structural company in the Northwest, which they're called the Erection Company. Yeah, it's weird, I know. But it's their motto is, we always get it up, and it's true, because they're the quickest, the fastest. I mean, how many pieces can you get in a day, kind of thing. Like
Mhm.
ironworkers always go go go.
Mhm.
I knew I wasn't gonna really. I didn't want to go that way, and as far as like connecting the iron, or
Mhm.
I I don't know. I got taken under the wing of an old timer, who kind of taught me how to weld, and I picked it up really quick, and I just became really good at that, because they tell you when you get in, like, try and learn everything that you can, but become really good at one thing. That way,
Mhm.
you're very valuable, in that aspect. And iron workers are always looking for welders,
Mhm.
because everyone wants to weld until they get under that hood or their cert and get that cert and think they can weld, and it's like, no, you got to really, there's a lot to it. There really is.
Yeah.
So having my welding certs, that's what kind of got me into, okay, well, I can do a lot more than just ironwork with my certs.
Sure.
And I was on a job and a pipe fitter had come up to me, and the fitters and the plumbers are all in the same local. And they pretty much tried to recruit me right then and there. And I'm like, yeah, like sign me up. But I knew I had to wait, because I wanted to wait to finish my apprenticeship and become vested. That way, all my time put into this trade, my pension wouldn't go, my retirement wouldn't just go away,
Right.
So I waited to apply, and it was rough at times, because I'm like, I need to get out. I was really stressed. I stressed
Sure.
a lot with that, because of incidents that happened, accidents, people getting hurt, me getting hurt myself. Like, I just knew that I needed to get out. So I waited. I signed up with all of my qualifications and my experience in the trades. It did make the process go a little bit smoother. There are a lot of people on that list trying to get into plumbing and fitting.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But they got me a job like 2 weeks after my first interview, and I was a helper, is what they call that. So I wasn't even in the apprenticeship yet. I was a helper, still on the list, but at least I was getting experience with the tools and everything else around the environment, because just because you're in the trades doesn't mean you know the next trade,
Right.
So it was rough, because I took a really big pay cut. Everything changed, everything flopped, and this was right in the beginning of COVID as well. So
Oh man.
It
Oh,
was
crazy.
a whirlwind of emotions, and just like, oh my God, like, am I doing the right thing? But I knew I was doing the right thing. It was
Sure.
it was stressful a little bit.
Yeah, that's crazy, and obviously the topic of this is of the hot topic for the last several months is, where's the great labor? And, I want to clarify, there's labor, right? But then there's motivated people that can, like, I love hearing this story. You persevered, you showed teamwork, you got your certificates, you stuck it out. And that's the type of future laborer we're kind of building. And you did all that really as kind of, like I said, the minority, someone who came in, with your already stereotype and then had to break that. And so that's really powerful to move through. And so here we are, obviously COVID's not gone, but as we start moving back forward, did you make the right decision? What's your job like today? And then we're going to start talking a little bit more about your experience on the day to day.
I do not regret my decision. I think that life is all about taking risks and just showing up and showing out, man. Like, you only got one, you know what I mean? So might as well try to learn as much as you can. Like they say, I love the people that I work around and the work that we do. I'm not going in stressed. It's like, am I going to get hurt today? I mean, there is possible chances in the trades that, you work around big, heavy equipment, tools, like all that stuff. So there are possible chances you're going to get hurt, but not the high risk of like, okay, how bad of an injury,
Right. Correct. Yeah.
My life is a lot smoother, if that makes sense.
Good.
Like, I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be, if that makes sense. So
that's great to hear. And let's dive in a little bit. So now, just talking kind of shop. So here you are. I love what you just said. You take a risk. It's important to just keep moving your career forward. What I'm hearing as an employer too, and obviously not in the union section, but the private sector, to look for people who have overcome adversity can become one of the best assets for an employee. And so asking questions like, tell me your story, and listening for people who have persevered and pursued through. And so I think that's incredible. And then by doing that, I think you've been able to see different parts of the industry that a lot of us have. What are your favorite aspects to the trades? And what has surprised you the most about them?
My favorite aspects are being able to work with my hands and moving every day. Like I said, I'm athletic and I like doing physical things. So climbing up all those stairs every day, in and out of lifts, all that stuff, like, I love it. I could not, going to school, I'm just like sleeping, right?
Yeah.
Not really, but I'm like going crazy in the classroom. Other than that, just learning like very important things about fixing your home, or just, things that you can take home with you and do side projects, or like just building your own thing. It's really rewarding to like say, I built that, driving downtown, I'm driving that by the like high rises and stuff. It's like, it's kind of breathtaking still to me.
Yeah, you were part of the structure, like that. It exists because of you and many others that made that happen. We take it for granted, those people that aren't in the trade. So like, I think they take for granted how much goes into the complexity of building a functioning and safe building and home, and thinking through that. I also like what you said. You're able to take these skills, right, and then apply them to other parts of your life. And I think that's something I think a lot of people can overlook. Oftentimes, it's my friends in the trades that help solve a problem, even over some of my more academic friends. And that's because you get to be real tangible, hands-on. Have you seen that to work out? And then on the other side is, how's it been as a teammate, building part of this new kind of team, this new kind of aspect? What's that been like?
As far as with the plumbers?
Yeah. You're working in a team, right? It's a new kind of team. You're a basketball player. I can tell you enjoy that. How has it been trying to fit into that team? And what are some aspects you've had to overcome?
At first it was hard because, especially in ironwork, I think because there's not a lot of women in ironwork. It's like they doubted me at first, like, oh, she's a girl, I don't want her help, she doesn't know what she's talking about, or whatever. But it fuels that fire to try harder, to work harder, to outshine the guys. Like, hey, no, I can do this, and I could probably do it better than you, so let's go. Like, I get pumped up. And once they find out, like, because I get mistaken a lot for being a man anyway. So one minute it's either like, at first it's like, I don't know, and then they realize what kind of work I do, my work ethic, and they're like, okay, I want her to help me, or let's have her on our team. And that feels really good. That's what I crave, is that feeling of like being accepted. And because I've always felt kind of out, from the crew, the main, I just outcaster, I guess you could call it. But I feel like I'm very accepted at where I'm at, and it just feels great. I can't even explain the feeling.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you took that stereotype and you fueled it into becoming a better worker. And I think that should be true of everybody. You do have something to prove when you come into something. And I've always been taught that if you're going to do something, learn to do it well and be the best at what you do. So I think there's a couple of really good takeaways there. And I appreciate that. Especially like you said about welding. You're like, this is what I need to do. I'm going to become good at one or two things that will help me to grow. All right. So being able to overcome adversity, have that fire. These are just aspects as employers on listening to this, which a lot of our listeners are owners of businesses. We're the ones out employing, trying to create environments, trying to find people like you, to come work for us, that care about what they're doing. And I think that should be something we should look at as employers, for us to be able to see differences in people and then see how they are willing to help walk with us to overcome those adversities, can actually turn out to be a great relationship and really incredible workers. So I just really encourage a lot of you out there to never overlook anyone, because I imagine it would have been easy to overlook a young Tesla as she's coming in, and what a misfortune you'd have to not have her working on your team. And so let's talk about how, hearing from you, Tessla, you've got people here on this show listening. What advice would you give other non-traditional tradespeople that are considering entering the industry, no matter who it is, that maybe they would like to maybe explore it, but they're just a little bit nervous? What would you say?
So definitely do your research. There are actually pre-apprenticeship programs that you can sign up for that take you to like a week. I'm pretty sure I didn't go through these, but they take you like a week at a time to each like trade and let you kind of experience like what it is a little bit. And I think that's really great. They just started that like 5 years ago or something like that. That pre-apprenticeship specifically is for women only. I'm sure that you can find ones for men and women both. But when I first got into the trades, there wasn't a lot of women in the trades. So I think that was like a change of like, hey, we need to get women in the trades, and somebody had stepped up and made that happen. And I think that's really great.
Awesome.
I'm drawing a blank on what it's called, unfortunately. maybe
That's
it'll pop up
okay.
in my head later. But other than that, I think that if you can't, like, if you're struggling finding a career or something that you want to find a passion with, or you like working with your hands, or you're just interested in it, I think you should definitely look into it and not be intimidated by the fact that it's a male dominated industry. There are like women groups in each local that, the women get together every Sunday or whenever they meet up, to help support you through that. There's Facebook groups with women in the trades that you guys can look into. There's a lot of sources out there now, especially in the last 5-6 years, that help make it better for women to pursue that passion.
That's awesome. Thank you. And we'll give you some of those resources in the comments and at bidclips.com. And so with that, I think this is a great topic. And for the people that aren't in an area where there's union tradespeople, and you got maybe a small town or something, you can always go to different businesses and just ask to do a ride along, ask to maybe observe. And if you're a business owner listening to this, let that happen. People they can come in and they don't have to go through some formal application. If someone wants to just say, hey, I used to say, just ride in the van if you want for a few hours, jump on a job, just kind of watch. And that's a great way for them to make sure it's a win-win, because you want to make sure you're hiring partners and people in your business that share with you. They're part of the family, right? So you want to be able to get to know them and who they are and what they can do and make sure it's a win for both sides. So I think that's really cool. And so we will look into some of those resources for you. Also, you can see one of our previous episodes, retaining and finding great technicians, with Megan Bedford. And she also has some of those over at deskfreenation.org. But let's continue now. So we got employees. So you just talked to employees that are thinking about it, specifically women. But let's talk about employers. If you're considering changing your culture to include women and non-traditional tradespeople, what are some little things that would have gone a long way for you that could still go a long ways for you?
As far as making it easy for me to,
yeah, just making sure that you feel on the same plane as everybody else. What could an employer do to make sure their business, and I'm more talking to business owners here, maybe your plumbing shops. Obviously in the union, you have a little different requirements, but in the trades in general, what are some things that we can all do to be more accepting and be more open to hiring and bringing anyone who walks through our door ready to learn?
I don't know about any other state, but Washington's very progressive, and they're doing a great job on making everybody feel included and making them feel like they actually matter. Especially with unions. I'm not very familiar with the non-union part of the trades, but I think especially with the local 32 plumbers and fitters, HVAC and refrigeration, they got a lot of things going on there with residential, new construction, TI, which is tentative improvement, service work, all that stuff. There's already a lot of different people in that local, I think anyway, with lots of personalities, characteristics. I mean, just, it's great because you don't feel like you're weird or different. Everybody's pretty accepting. So it's kind of a hard question. I'm trying to word it a little bit better here.
No, that's okay. I'm hearing that, the nice thing about a union, that a lot of us in states that don't have unions and companies who maybe who employ non-union employees, I hear that the union actually helps you by creating a camaraderie. And, I felt that from you, both in the first phone call we had and in this interview. What are some of those aspects of your favorite, like camaraderie, the favorite components of work that do make you feel accepted, safe? And they might be simple. What kind of unspoken respect or ways you work together are things we can take home?
So one thing that I thought was really cool about, especially being in the union, but tradespeople look out for each other regardless of what kind of trade you're in. It's a brotherhood, sisterhood type deal. And you see another guy with another like high vis on, and you're like, okay, you're cool. Like kind of, like, hey brother, you know what I mean? Or hey sister.
Yep.
And really, when someone gets injured on the job, it doesn't matter what job it is, everybody's there to help out, to donate money
Sure.
for, like we had an ironworker fall a couple months ago and broke like 3 vertebrae in his back. We had some guy, this operator on the 520 bridge who got crushed, and he unfortunately passed away. We pass the hats is what they call it at every job, and people donate, and I think that's just amazing.
That's awesome. And in the private sector, we sometimes get riddled with our different, and trying to make sure we're safe all the time on the way we employ people. We forget just the basics of caring for people. And I think what I love hearing from you, and just makes me kind of want to be a union iron worker, because this is such a different world coming out of a non-union glazer. And so for me, it's just awesome to hear how you used that adversity and then getting into the union. It almost feels like you wanted to be part of that team. And I think a lot of us listening from the outside of the union world can just say, hey, how do we create those teams? How can we have a union effect? Instead of fighting against our employees working together, how do we embrace them coming together, looking out for each other, and then looking out for the company, the production, the customer service. So for those listening who are in your same position, what advice can you have to help them grow their influence and grow and influence their, let me rephrase this question. For those listening that are in your same position, that are working and maybe not a progressive state like Washington, who have maybe some coworkers who aren't as caring as some of yours have been, how can they help influence their coworkers in a loving way? How do they educate people to talk to a woman, to somebody who's not the normal stinky old man, that's in the union? Educate us on how we can grow as an industry.
I think a lot is going on in this world right now between just a lot of things, especially in the last year, with hate and just disagreement and all that stuff. And I think that kind of, how do I say this, work out when you're just, it doesn't matter like who you are, or if somebody pisses you off or something, like just be kind. And it's, don't judge a book by its cover. And just be open-minded. Like the arrogance and the ignorance that I see and could be quickly chopped away with just being kind. And I've seen that myself. I've been the first gay person that people have ever met, and they just are like, wow, like you have changed my perspective. Very religious people, which I have nothing against anybody. I just live my life and hope people can be kind to other people. You know what I mean? I tried to show an example is pretty much what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of guys and people in general, women too, that are just set in their ways. And I totally get it. But in this day and age, like things are changing, man. And if you ain't going to get on that train, like it's going to be rough. You're going to be angry, and it's not going to be a fun ride. So just try and find that love in your heart. You know what I mean?
Wow. That's awesome, because trades are about service, right? We create service, we fix, we build, we prepare. It really built America, and imagine what that world was like. People coming from all sorts of different countries, religions and languages. And what a crazy opportunity I love what you said, just be kind, and check it at the door, because you're all on one mission together. And I think that's really important for all of us listening, and even in our listenership, we have people all over the spectrum. And for me, for those of us that grew up in the trades and Montana, I couldn't be more conservative, bland, right? But it's important to, even no matter where you come from, to open up our perspective, to be kind to everybody. Don't judge a book by the cover. And more, listen to the story. What have you persevered through? How much do you want to learn the trade? What are you good at? Can you weld? Grab a tool. Do you want to learn? Just treat people the same, no matter if it's one of my little daughters walking into the office, or if it's just a burly guy who you think is going to be fast. You might be surprised, and often you are. So that's powerful. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I wanted to say something real quick too about that. It's I heard many stories back in the day when women weren't, like, obviously minorities and still are, but obviously just not a lot. And it's like, oh, she doesn't know anything. She doesn't know anything. It's like, because no one took the time to teach her. And so job to job to job, she's not learning anything, but go sweep the floors or go clean up, go do typical woman work, you know? It's like, no, like put a tool in her hand, have trust in her, and let her prove you wrong, or give her a chance to anyway. You know what I mean? Just like anybody else. Like, just because he's a guy doesn't mean he's gonna, blow the water. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, yeah, it's give people chances is all I'm trying to say, no matter what. Like,
Yeah.
Don't be surprised.
Well, and that really is a great point to wrap up on. I think our trades, the future of our trades, need to be an education on treating people, education on the aptitude, education that, I'm sorry, the person who you might not think can do it might be able to work a tool better than you ever have, and give them that chance and that faith. And you're going to get some duds. You're going to get people who, that's not for them. Right. And that's okay, no matter who the person is. And better to hire slow, fire fast, and give everyone a chance, and a chance to show you they're willing to learn, a chance to show you they'll show up on time. So, what an amazing opportunity. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being on this show. And like I said, as a dad of 2 little daughters, I want them to look up and see the trades as, wow, that's a viable career. And I can do that if I want. I can be a doctor if I want. It doesn't matter. They got to find it out. And so, Tessla, you've been great today. And we really appreciate you on the show. And we're excited to see where your future holds you.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well.
Awesome. Well, wonderful. We'll see you guys next time on Today in Trade, sponsored by Big Clips.